Now, Foreign Minister Penny Wong, as we know, she's made her first visit to the West Bank. She's met with Palestinian officials. She's also lent support to calls for a ceasefire and a two-state solution. Here's what she had to say while she was there.
It is clear from the conflict that the path to peace demands a just and enduring two-state solution. It demands the recognition of Palestinians' aspirations for statehood, and it demands security for Israelis.
No one to get a view better to get a view on this than Australia's longest-serving Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer, who joins me this afternoon from Perth. What did you make of the Foreign Minister's comments there, Alexander? Nice to see you again.
Pleasure to be on your show. Well, Australia has been arguing for a two-state solution since 1948, when Israel was established by the UN, and part of the deal was partition of the old British Palestinian Mandate. So everybody says they want a two-state solution. The challenge for a foreign minister is to be realistic about what the problem is. And the problem is that Hamas and Hezbollah don't want a two-state solution. They want to destroy Israel and kill the Jews. So from Israel's point of view, they face literally, not figuratively, literally an existential threat on their borders, and they need to deal with that first and foremost. Once they've got rid of Hamas's military capability and destroyed the tunnels, then I'm sure they'll feel more comfortable about finding a negotiating partner. But at the moment, there is no Palestinian negotiating partner for the Israelis to negotiate a two-state solution.
Do you believe that the Foreign Minister should have visited the sites of the Hamas massacre of October 7th? Would you have?
Of course I would have, yes. It seems to me to be fundamental to any trip to Israel to visit that site when you consider the gravity of what Hamas did on that day, the huge human rights abuses, the savagery of what they did. And of course they triggered, not Israel, Hamas deliberately triggered this war. They wanted this war and they succeeded. They triggered it through the massacre and the hostage-taking that they perpetrated on the 7th of October. So I thought it was fundamentally important she should visit. And I know why she won't visit. She won't visit because the Labor Party is trying to balance, on the one hand, if you like, mainstream opinion in a liberal democracy like Australia, which wants Israel to continue to survive, with the sort of hardcore left, which Labor fears will drift off to support the Greens, which is an anti-Semitic political movement in Australia. So Penny Wong is trying to get the balance there. Personally, I don't think this is about balance. I think this is about doing the obvious thing, which is supporting the Israelis to get rid of Hamas and then to look at trying to find some solution. But talking about a two-state solution now and refusing to visit the site of the massacre and the hostage-taking, it's just playing politics, I'm afraid.
Well, that's the problem, though, isn't it? I mean, Penny Wong comes from the hard left that you talk about, and Anthony Albanese's from the left as well. And so they've got history on this question. I mean, you can't erase their views on the Palestinian question that they've expressed in the past just because you're now the PM and the Foreign Minister, can you?
Number one, you can't. But number two, they have another issue, which is that they don't want to leak votes from Labor to the Greens, particularly in some of those inner city suburbs in Sydney. So if you take Tanya Plibersek, Anthony Albanese's seat, his own seat, and other seats in that immediate part of Sydney, they worry that in those seats votes will leak from Labor to the Greens if they show too much sympathy for the Israelis. So that's why they're playing a kind of double game. And it's not good enough. Australia is a major country in the world. It's not a little country. and Australia's voice should be heard. For example, Australia should be condemning the South Africans for this terrible stunt of pursuing a genocide case in the International Court of Justice against the Israelis. The Germans, the British, other like-minded countries have just dismissed it as the stunt that it is, yet Australia hasn't done that, and that is all because of internal Labor Party politics.
How dismayed were you when Australia refused to send that warship to the Red Sea as asked for by the Americans? That must have very much dismayed you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Australia for many years has been a contributor to a very fundamental, we might call it the American alliance, but it's a Western alliance. And you can't expect others to come to help you if you're not prepared from time to time to go and help them. This is a huge threat, not just to shipping through the Suez Canal, which is 12% of the world's maritime trade, but a huge threat to international peace and security. I mean, economies will go into recession because of this. So the Americans, once more, you think of the taxpayers in Boise, Idaho, or Austin, Texas, or somewhere like that. They're picking up the burden of doing this, and Australia says it's too hard, we won't share that burden. We should, like the British, be there side by side with the Americans and prepared to use our military assets for the purpose of trying to keep the Red Sea open.
In your time, can you remember the world being at such a dangerous place when you consider the Ukraine-Russian conflict? You've now got, obviously, the Middle East conflict. You've got the issue in the Red Sea. You've got the Hezbollah action out of Lebanon. It's a pretty dangerous world at the moment, isn't it?
And you've got risks over Taiwan as well after the Taiwan election, where the Taiwanese people decided to defy Beijing. And you know how it is, the hard left, including the Communist Party of China, they don't brook dissent. If you don't agree with them, they close you down. So we haven't seen the end of what China's going to do over the Taiwan election. So
no.
In answer to your question,
no, exactly
I haven't seen such a dangerous time. It's a very dangerous time.
Great to pick your brains as usual. That's the former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer there, always speaking a hell of a lot of sense.